How you guys doing? This is Hybridsteel. Welcome to me having a little chat about up and coming projects and things that I'll be doing. Yeah, this is pretty much it. It's just going to be me talking. So, I've got a couple of things I want to say, and if I do miss the point, let me know in the comment section. I'm going to need your help on this one because unless I've got my wires crossed, I'm pretty sure I know the reasons why certain things don't work. But let's start from the top. Number 1. Yes, I will be participating in Season 31 of Gold Rush, so for the next... after half term, for the next 30 days there should be a live stream at least every day. It may be a short one because for the first week I've got school half term, which means I'm not going to be streaming during the day. I'll stream at night and we'll have a chat and so on and so forth. And then I've got 3 weeks of just streaming and working on Gold Rush and seeing if I can beat my last season's record of, 93,000 ounces. It's not bad. Maybe I can hit 100,000 this time without faffing around, because that's what I did last time. I messed around too much. Let's see if we can break that record. Part 2. I want to do an out of ore big playthrough thing. Now, I'm going to have to do this a little bit later on in the year. The reason why is because Hydroneer's update comes out very, very soon. The DLC is upon us and we are getting very, very close to it. And at the end of the day, Hydroneer is something really big I really enjoy, and I really want to share that content with you guys, and I really want to sort of answer people's questions, just because I'm a little bit of a glutton when it comes to people wanting to watch Hydroneer content. And apparently I'm one of the better sources to go to. Unless you want to be mildly entertained or thoroughly entertained, you'll go and watch one of the bigger guys Let's Game It Out, who continuously breaks the game. Apart from that, that's where we're heading in the next few months. Out of ore is going to be a big thing that I want to sort of look into, because in fairness, the update's looking pretty cool now. Christian is building that game out and it is looking phenomenal, and it's just an ongoing project. It's pretty cool. I want to talk about multiplayer for a minute. And most people know that on my channel I don't tend to play games with a lot of other people. The reason why is just because I'm one of those weirdos. If someone comes into my game and they play around with it and then they mess things up, I have to completely redo what they did. And if they don't listen to what I want, and then so my brain doesn't work with people sharing things in my games. But if I jump into your game and I work to whatever you want me to do, that's fine. But if I'm doing stuff in my game, I don't want you to touch it. And yeah, it's sort of one of those personal things. It's why I don't really play a lot of multiplayer stuff. So hopefully that answers some questions. My last point of interest in this video all comes down to the adding of multiplayer. Now, as far as I understand, adding multiplayer into a single player game isn't very easy. And this is where I'm going to need your help. Down in the comment section, if you know more than me about computer programming and so on and so forth, maybe you could help me along with this as well. But the way I understand it, if you want to add multiplayer into a single player game, you have to completely rewrite the entire game. The only how I understand this is because that's what they did with Hydroneer. Hydroneer was basically a single player game. People kept bitching and moaning they wanted multiplayer. So Max had to go off and create a whole new version of Hydroneer from an earlier version of the game, add multiplayer in, and completely just rebuild the game so it could be added in. Unfortunately, after testing on 4 different gaming engines, they had to basically use Steam co-op because the game voxel dirting and so on and so forth doesn't work properly, hence why they ended up in the co-op system, the split screen system, and so on and so forth. If I understand that correctly, that's pretty much how it is. So, on that note, with all these people since 2016 asking if Gold Rush is ever going to have a multiplayer, and for the last nearly 10 years, nobody has added multiplayer into the game, maybe take this as a thorough warning. The game doesn't need multiplayer. And I've gone through this a couple of times with my live streams. What would multiplayer achieve? You're going to be sitting there in a dump truck for 8 hours while your friend loads your truck. That's it. Your friend isn't going to want to jump in the rock truck and drive backwards and forwards to the wash plant. Even if you were to get into an excavator and your friend was in an excavator, you're doing the bitch work. You're the one who's going to be driving backwards and forwards into the wash plant whilst your friend is like, I'm just going to load up. I'm not doing nothing. You're here to take this burden off me. Moo ha ha. That's what I would do. If I had multiplayer Gold Rush, somebody is sitting in that rock truck all the time. You are not coming out onto my plot of land. You are not going to be doing any digging. And even if you did digging, you're getting back in the rock truck. You're going to be doing the bitch work, going backwards and forwards and dumping dirt, because that's what your job would be. Adding multiplayer into a single player game is not easy. Think of it as ploughing a field. So in order for you to grow your crops, you have to plough your field. So you have to start from scratch. So starting from scratch, nothing. Then, if you want to add your seeds, you have to then plant every individual seed for your field to grow. Gold Rush, you would have to completely strip the game back to nothing and add multiplayer into every single row of coding so the game worked as a multiplayer. Now, I've got this feeling, but after a game that's been out for nearly 10 years, the developing team don't really want to fudge around with the game too much to make a multiplayer game. They're more happier trying to reinvent the game and make things more better for the user, adding DLC and extra bits and pieces for us to enjoy the game more. Maybe even a couple, I don't know what's happening. I'm literally just sitting here waiting the same as you guys. But I'm pretty sure that adding multiplayer to Gold Rush is, one, a stupid idea because of the amount of work that is needed, and two, it's a bit of a stupid idea because of the amount of work that's needed. Now, I know that I only know that's one point, but hey, I mentioned it twice because it's such a big point. Now, unless I am really missing the point here, can somebody down in the comment section let me know if I'm actually on the right track or not? Because that's how I understand it. It's also why, if you came into my live streams and started mentioning, hey, this game needs multiplayer, I invented the tailings pile. The tailings pile is probably one of the most boring jobs you can do on a mine site. If you ever watch Gold Rush, the TV show, basically you have to clear off all the crap that's come out of the trommel or your wash plant and go and dump it over the edge, go back, pick up the next lot and dump it over the edge, and so on and so forth. The reason why I invented this as like the more punishment for that is because, number one, it's a joke and I think it's quite funny, and number two, it's basically for anybody who asks a stupid question, you get a stupid answer. So somebody comes into my live stream and says, hey, I think this game needs multiplayer, to the tailings pile with you, and that basically indicates that you're not coming back here until you give me your socks. And I did that as a funny way of like having a laugh with people. And the idea is, you asked a stupid question or you've said something stupid, you don't deserve to have a chat for a minute and you go off and do this. It's a joke, right? That's all it is. And I use this as a joke because that question gets asked every single live stream I ever did with Gold Rush. Every single time it's, hey, this game needs multiplayer. It doesn't. The way I understand it, in order for them to add multiplayer to this game, it would be an extraordinary amount of work. Especially with the fact that this team that are working on the game now are new. They're not the old people. They're not the people who used to run this studio. They're not the people who used to run this game. They are literally a brand new bunch of people who have taken over this game and they're like, what are we doing? You know, they've had to they've had to learn the whole game. They've had to basically sit there and go, okay, we can probably add to this and make it better. In order for them adding a multiplayer, that is like a massive amount of work that you would have to start. Now, I know there's games out there that have got it already. Like, if you look at Gold Hunters, I know it's a crap game, but I'm using it as an example because it started with a multiplayer mode, right? And that's okay. It's already in the game. It was created when the game was being created. Out of War is adding multiplayer into its game, which means in the background, they're creating a newer version of the game to bring in a second or third or fourth or fifth or however many people they want in their game, and they're going to chuck it all in. But it all has to be built from the ground up, which is a stupid amount of work. Hydroneer did it, and like I said, they had to do it with a co-op mode through Steam because the game wouldn't run multiplayer on 4 different gaming engines. Adding multiplayer is just a useless thing to add into a game that's been around for this long. It's been around for nearly 10 years. It's 2024 now. The game has been around since 2016 when it was first early going through stuff and being like put out as an EA game and so on and so forth. EA Early Access for those people who don't know. And so it's taken its time to get to this point. You know, especially with like the studio being like basically run as like a little boys club because the boys club wouldn't talk to anybody outside the club because, well, you know, you don't need to know because you're only a player. You're not a developer. We shouldn't tell you. That's how the game was used to run. Nowadays, the game's a lot more open. The people who are actually there are actually like trying to talk to the actual user, which is quite nice. They're trying to rebuild that trust because it's a whole new group of people. But adding multiplayer to this game would be just a really bad thing to do right now. I mean, if it was up to me, let's say I was the head of Code Horizon and I was going to be trying to rebuild the trust with my player base, I'd be building Gold Rush 2. And the reason why I would be building Gold Rush 2 is because, number one, there is a massive audience out there who want to play a good Gold Rush game. And Gold Rush is okay, but it does have its drawbacks. There are problems with it, and it's old. But if you were to bring Gold Rush 2 adding a multiplayer section to the game and making the game much bigger. Because the plots of land that we have right now, like Old Arnold, River Creek, and all the Rivertown, Nighthawk, they're not massive. They're not big enough. The game just, I don't think it's a big enough game to support multiplayer, and it would just be useless. Well, that's just my thoughts on this. You know, and like I said, if I'm right or wrong, down in the comment section, let's have a chat about this and why this is such a big thing. Because there are other games out there you could play with multiplayer, and it's just one of those things. I don't think the game's ever going to have multiplayer because of the work that's needed to have it. And number two, the game is not big enough to support multiplayer. Because at the end of the day, there's not really a lot more to do. It's a very good gaming loop of stuff. Dig dirt, deliver dirt, wash dirt, gold. Dig dirt. You get the gist. You get this constant loop of stuff you have to do as a single player. And after a couple of days, you'll get into it. But when it comes to a multiplayer game, if you joined my game and you're like, hey, I want to play with Hybridsteel for like 8 hours, have fun sitting in the rock truck because you're not digging a hole. Ain't going to let you. And that's where it would be as well. You'd have a lot of people sitting there going, well, no. You're playing my game. You deliver the dirt to the wash plant, backwards and forwards. You do the bitch work. That's how it's going to be. Like I said, down in the comment section, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And at the end of the day, it's a discourse. I'm not here to have a go at people. I just understand it from that point of view that it would be a shed ton of work that they don't really want to do. So until my next video, live stream, or whatever else I do on this channel, thank you very much for kicking by. And a boom. Fist bump to you. And have a great day. Bye-bye for now.